Find the vertex by completing the square. So in today's video, we'll be talking about obviously how to complete the square. And I know a lot of high school math courses, we talk about completing the square all the time, and a lot of students really hate doing this. So in today's video, we'll be trying to change that hatred into something that you like, completing the square. So after this video, I'll help you guys, instead of hating completing the square, I hope you guys like doing it. So first of all, we need to understand what completing the square is. So completing the square basically in quadratics is when you take the standard form of an equation and then we want to convert that into vertex form. So that's why a lot of questions will be like, oh, find the vertex by completing the square, because completing the square converts standard form into vertex form, and what vertex form shows is the vertex. And I know a lot of people also like to find the vertex in standard form directly by solving for the axis of symmetry, which is x equals to negative b over 2a, and then whatever that answer is, we can change it. We could substitute that into the equation, and then we get a y value, and then we get the overall vertex. But in today's video, we'll be trying to do a different way by completing the square. So the first thing we want to do, this is really, really important. We need to remember this formula called b over 2 squared. And this formula, which I will explain more later, is really important because in completing the square, this formula here makes everything much more easier. And so basically we have 4 here, that's b, right? So then we can plot b as 4, and then later on we get 2 squared is 4. And so what we want to do is plot this inside the equation. So first of all, we want to make this equation so that it looks a bit like the vertex. So how do we do that? We do x squared plus 4x and then minus 3. So we know that the equation for the vertex is a times x minus h squared plus k. And so what we're trying to do is kind of make it look a bit similar, at least for the first stage. And here we solve for 4, so we want to put that inside the brackets. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then remember, we must always minus 4 as well, because this is something new. It doesn't belong in the equation, in the original equation. We're just adding this into the equation. So when we add something new, we must always minus it. And so close brackets and then minus 3. So now if we focus on just these numbers here, what do you see? You can factor it. So you could factor into x plus 2 times x plus 2. And if you're not sure if you're right, you can always expand it to check. And if we expand it, we get the same thing. And so to further simplify this, we get x plus 2 squared, right? And so here we already factored it and we got x plus 2 squared. And this kind of looks similar, right? Look at this, x minus h squared, and we have x plus 2 squared. Now we want to know the a or the k. So we have negative 4 here because we only focus this. So we want to put that outside the brackets. So we get negative 4 minus 3, and then we get x plus 2 squared minus 4 minus 3 is minus 7. And there you have it. We have our vertex form. So now we want to find the vertex, and the vertex would be negative 2 comma negative 7, because remember we have negative h here, so negative h would become positive, because here this number here is a positive. So that means the number inside the brackets must be negative, so it would be negative 2. And now let's try something more complex. Now we have an a value here. The previous one, the a value was just 1, but now we have an a value. So whenever we see something that is not 1 for the a value, we want to always put that outside the brackets. So we could factor this, but remember we want to keep the x inside the brackets. So we have negative 2 times x squared plus 10x, and then I want to leave the negative 42 outside. So here we have our form, and then remember what I said earlier, we have this formula that you would need to memorize, b over 2 squared. And so here, remember, we don't want to take the b from here. We want to take the b from here because we factor it and then we get the simplified b version. And so b would be 10 over 2 squared, and then we get 5 squared, and then we get 25. And so the same thing we want to do is we want to put that inside the equation. So negative 2x squared plus 10x plus 25 minus 25 minus 42. And now again, we want to focus on just these three numbers. And if we factor it, we get x plus 5, x plus 5. And to further simplify it, we get x plus 5 squared. And then we have the negative 2 outside, and we have this number here. Now, a lot of people do mistakes like, okay, let's just do negative 25 minus 42. But be careful here, because we have the negative 2 outside the brackets, we must always expand it back. So we can't just say, oh, it's negative 25, because it's inside the brackets. And if it's inside the brackets, and this is outside the brackets, we need to times it, we need to multiply it. And so we get, if we multiply it, we would get negative 25 times negative 2, and then minus 42. Now, negative 42, we don't need to multiply by negative 2 since it's already outside. But because negative 25 is inside, and when we want to put it outside, we always need to multiply whatever is here. So we have negative 25x plus 5 squared. Negative 25 times negative 2 is positive 50, and then minus 42, and then we get negative 2x plus 5 squared plus 8. And then that's our vertex form, and for the vertex, it would be negative 5, comma 8. And there you have it. This is how you complete the square. This is how you convert from standard form to vertex form. Thank you for watching the video.